Got our next story here is Sebastian Bach doesn't have a problem with Paul Stanley using backing tapes during live shows. I got to say, looking at this picture, I want to give Sebastian Bach credit for not being a Botox disaster. He actually looks like he's aging naturally. And I really appreciate that because it's rare in the rock world. So anyway, former Skid Row singer Sebastian Bach has once again defended Kiss against claims the band is using pre-recorded tracks during its farewell tour. And typically he's the one calling people out for this. So I think this is why this is a story. Ever since Kiss's End of the Road trek launched in early 2019, there has been persistent online chatter about frontman Paul Stanley allegedly singing to backing tape. The speculation stemmed from the fact that Stanley had been struggling to hit the high notes in many of the band's classic songs for a number of years. Bach, a self-proclaimed Kiss Uber fan, weighed in on the rumors of playback tapes being used at Kiss concerts while responding to a question from the Sinkin' Stanley YouTube channel at this week's Fanboy Expo in Orlando, Florida. He said, as transcribed by Blabbermouth, we always throw that in because we love Blabbermouth for pulling this news together, and they pick up stuff from us sometimes. He said, my position on that is if you are in your 70s, if you're 72, you got to put on foot-high monster boots and a Godzilla costume and hook yourself up to wires and fly to the top of the roof and sing. A guy in that age, I don't really have a problem with that guy that's in his 70s or 80s might use the technology to give us a show. I can't imagine my mom, who's 81, I can't imagine her breathing fire and spitting blood. Well, I can imagine the spitting blood part, but I don't mind the technology being used for its proper thing, like an old dude giving a show trying his best. But he's old, right? What do I have a fucking problem with excuse my language here, but you know who you're talking to here. I don't like when I have an opening band who's 23 and they have a whole show on a click track and the background vocals are going. You can tell so easily. It's so easy. So it's almost like Sebastian Bach is kind of using the same excuse that people use for like Britney Spears and Christina. Well, Christina Aguilera, I don't think lip syncs, but because they're doing a dance routine and they're doing all this other stuff, it's kind of okay for them to do that. And I mean, hey, we had Ken Mary from Fifth Angel on, and he said when we talked about the backing track thing, he said this exactly about Kiss. He said, I went to see Kiss. I know they were using backing tracks, and I don't care because I love Kiss, and it was a great show. And the reality is, as a fan, if you're cool with it, that's all that matters. I mean, you're the one buying the ticket. So if you're cool with buying a ticket to a show that's a bunch of backing tracks, that's all you, right? Like, it's really about the audience more than anything and what they're willing to accept. I'm not saying I'm the greatest singer, and you can hear it on my YouTube videos. He continued, I don't always sing great. Nobody does. Newsflash, not everybody sings perfect every single show. That's not what rock and roll is. You have good nights, you have bad nights. You can't tell me about using tapes in a video. I know who's doing it. I know who's not. And if you want to sit down and watch the video with me and tell me that you're not using the tapes, I will tell you that you're full of shit because I don't use the tapes. And if you do, I'm not going to pretend that you're on the same level. Bach added, I have seen Kiss about 4 or 5 times in the last 3 or 4 years, and it's still the greatest rock show in the world because Kiss, there's no show that has the excitement of Kiss. When the lights go down and the bass goes and they fucking hit the stage. If Kiss were in their 20s, I would not like them to use tapes. Or if they were like an athlete one day and said, oh, I think I want to be a rock star, and then they just get up there and do jumping jacks and have a tape going, I've got a problem with that. I don't have a problem with a 75-year-old man giving me a show that he's always given, but also we're not, as fans, dicks. We should pay respect to a guy like Paul Stanley for everything he's done in his whole life, being of that age and still giving us the Kiss show. I feel sorry for people that don't go to a Kiss show. It's your loss. There you go. It's acceptable to him in this context. It's not acceptable to him in the context of Ronnie Radke from Falling in Reverse, which is, I think, who he was arguing with a couple years ago. Back in February 2019, Bach praised Kiss after witnessing the band's concert at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. At the time, he wrote in a series of tweets, Kiss hit the exact same notes in Anaheim they did in their 30s. I listened to Paul Stanley sing his ass off live. I paid tribute to the band that has given us more than any other band that any of us can name, I have seen way more obvious use of backing tracks than with Kiss. So Blabbermouth is kind of like instigating here. They're stringing together all these different quotes and articles. Most fans assume that Six was referring to Kiss, especially since Kiss bassist vocalist Gene Simmons had previously slammed bands who used backing tapes for not being honest enough to include that fact on their concert tickets. After Kiss played NBC's America's Got Talent in September 2018, Stanley was asked by Rolling Stone if that was actually a live performance or if he and his bandmates had tracked it earlier. What you tend to do is record it live, and that way you know everything is as it should be, he responded. It's not like going into the studio or anything like that. It's with all its imperfections. It's live. In recent years, more and more artists have been given a pass on relying on pre-recorded tracks, drum triggers, and other assorted. Drum triggers are different. I mean, if you're playing death metal in different clubs, it's almost like you need drum triggers because you're playing so fast. A mic'd drum is not going to hit the back wall fast enough before the other beat hits. So I feel like triggers, I don't blame people for using triggers. And there's other types of triggers that trigger samples or whatever. I mean, to me, that's part of a show. Even if you're playing to a click track that has like loaded backing sounds, like string arrangements and that kind of stuff, or even backing vocals to some extent. Now, I would prefer like that the band has someone in the band sing it, like, you know, the guitar player or the drummer or whatever. But if you got to do it, you got to do it. Anyway. For better or for worse, pre-recorded tracks are becoming increasingly common for touring artists of all levels and genres, and they're just not used in pop music. Many rock artists utilize playback tracks to varying degrees. Yeah, everybody does it now. This past March, Kiss's longtime manager Doc McGhee defended Stanley's vocal performance on End of the Road, explaining that Starchild fully sings to every song at every concert. He explained, it's enhanced. It's just part of the process to make sure that everybody hears the songs the way they should be sang to begin with. Nobody wants to hear people do stuff that's not real, and that's not what they came to hear. When McGhee was asked to clarify if he was actually saying there are backing tracks that Paul is singing to, Doc said, he'll sing to tracks. It's all part of the process because everybody wants to hear everybody sing, but he fully sings to every song. So there you have it. You know, people have varying degrees of opinions on this issue, and like I said, to me it's a matter of what you as a fan or audience member are willing to accept. For me, it's like I don't, you know, I want to hear a live band. I go to a live concert to hear the mistakes, you know. That's part of what makes it a live show. And when it's too calculated and too perfect, it just doesn't feel right, you know? But I think what Sebastian Bach is saying here actually makes some sense. You know, it's kind of like Kiss are older guys, and their fans want to see their live show and relive that energy, and Kiss is giving them what they want. So how can you argue with that?